This is Not Worth Living, a podcast that features creatives interviewing themselves with a preset list of questions. Unlike other podcasts that feel like conversation between friends, this one aims to feel like eavesdropping on a psychiatrist's visit. Today's episode features
Charlene Elsby. And I'm going to skip what makes you tick. I just got a little too conceptual with that one. So, let's go with, would you open an envelope with your death date? Abso-fucking-lutely. Absolutely. I think about my death date constantly. It's just like talking about things that make you tick. It's like a tick where when something takes a while, I like to calculate how much of my anticipated lifespan this project is actually going to take in order to determine if it's worth it and if it should be a priority. Like if it's going to take a few years to publish a book, and I don't know how many years I've got left, but we can pretty much anticipate that people are going to live to age 80, according to the ancient Greeks. So if I were going to be 80 and I am currently whatever, how many years left have I got in my life? How much of a percent of my lifespan am I going to dedicate to this project is a question. And that helps me. I think that helps me. Maybe. If it didn't, I would do it anyway. So why bother asking? I would absolutely. If I opened an envelope with my actual death date on it, that would just make my calculations a little more precise. And how could that be a bad thing? I work great with a deadline. A death line. So, yeah, I think I would definitely open the envelope and I would get super organized as a result. I mean, we're all going to die. We know that. It's a good thing to keep to mind when you are caring about your life's activities. It's like, yeah, you are going to die. That's a stoic thing, right? It is a lot easier to remember that all of our human endeavors are trivial and nothing we do matters that much. We're going to die. The people who criticize you are going to die. We're all dying constantly. So when? Yeah, I think I'd answer that question. What was the first time you remember creating something intentionally? That one's hard. That's a hard one. Barely remember anything. Remember when social media came out and suddenly I had to remember everyone I'd ever gone to school with and what they did and what they looked like and suddenly know what they're up to now, as if I can keep a constant concept in my head of their entire lifespan, when before I simply forgot who they were. And I have forgotten a lot of things that I have ever done. I don't know what memory sticks out here. The first time I created something intentionally. I would think in primary school art projects. Maybe. I did those. I wasn't great at them. They didn't like me. The weirdest thing was I got so tired of these art teachers and I don't know. I don't necessarily have the perseverance. I do have perseverance, but not the kind of perseverance where you technically enact something after having an idea for it. So I would think these artistic things, but then slop up the executions because I didn't want to have to spend that amount of time on it. That's not the fun part. I'm thinking of pointillism here. I had a pointillism project and they wanted us, make these million dots. Well, the million dots aren't the point, are they? It's the concept, but they really thought it was the million dots. And I got an A- on my pointillism project, I remember. Because I just started spacing out the dots equally. It's I didn't put any attempt into the shading. It's just fill up the page. I have shit to do. So I got the A-, and I just got a little tired of being judged. I don't want to be judged. Who wants to be judged? This relates to back to the office. Why are people looking at me all the time? Anyway, so I decided what I would do is we had this free art project coming up. Do whatever the hell you want. And I said, fuck it. I made some cookies and I slapped them on a plate and I covered them in varnish. And I'm like, here you go. And A+++, because what I had done was attempt to freeze in time the fragility of life. Right? I took a perishable item and I just tried to make it permanent, which represents our seeking immortality, but that wasn't it, was it? I felt like baking cookies and I put them on a plate. And I often question whether an artist can actually describe the art they have made, or if that says something that comes after the fact by people who are scholarly but not necessarily creative in that way. Like, we can't trust the little write-ups next to the paintings, can we? These are not coming from the same source as the actual creative work. Now, there's a theory behind here that I am assuming that may not immediately be evident, which is that creativity is actually a kind of inspiration from another, I'm not going to say plane of existence or realm, it is a transcendence, such that the explanation for what you're doing isn't always there. And I do question the value of art that is created with a purpose rather than simply drawn from the other side. It is more mundane. It comes from here as opposed to there. And so there is this latent idea that I don't want a purpose. Yeah, I don't want a purpose. I don't want to create something with the express idea of this is what I'm doing, this is what's gonna come out of it, this is the effect it's gonna happen, this is the effect it's gonna have on people. With all of that worked out in advance, that doesn't leave any room for the beyond to influence what I am doing, which is like the whole point of artistic creation. So yeah, I don't remember. Short answer, I don't remember creating something intentionally. I remember destruction. I remember destroying things intentionally, but those aren't good stories. Okay. What keeps you motivated? Nothing. Yeah, this relates to my earlier response. What keeps you motivated? Is there something in the future that I anticipate is going to happen from whatever I am doing? No. I just kind of float along and I do stuff and then things happen and it all seems right at the time. But I don't necessarily know what it's going to be. And it is silly. Is it silly? It is silly to assume that we're going to be able to take into account all of the factors that will affect our situation in any time in the near or far distant future, because things happen that are constantly outside of our control, that affect our existence and our well-being and what we are currently up to. And, we have this observation that people say all the time, I had no idea I would be here at this point in my life. And it's like, yes, that is the standard thing. You should anticipate that you will not know what is going to happen. So while we attempt to make these plans in advance, and this is also based on the empirical scientific method of taking from the past and trying to infer the future, right? We take from the past, we try to infer the future, but our observations of the past are actually not consistency, but inconsistency. So we should anticipate rationally, scientifically, that in the future, things will be completely different from how I imagined them, because that is our most common observation. At least that's what I gather. Maybe there are people out there who are just living their lives according to how they wanted them to be and not straying, but, shit happens. So what keeps me motivated? I don't know. I don't know where the motivation comes from. I get an idea, and then it has to be done, and then it is done. And then what do I do with it? Well, that comes as another kind of inspiration, where it's like, okay, I did not feel like contacting this person today, pursuing this moded distribution for whatever it is done, but then you see a fucking tweet, and it's like, okay, I guess I will pursue this new life course. So, yeah, I don't control all the tweets. I don't know what's going to happen. So, I don't necessarily know what's going to occur when I begin a project, or where it's going to go, or what's going to happen to it. And I don't even trust the things that I have planned, because, plans can get fucked up too. Things happen. The farther in the future they are, the more likely things are going to happen that are going to affect your plans. And I got a really nasty look once from a dude when he asked me what I plan to do with my life. And I was like, I don't know. I don't have goals, and it's unreasonable to do so, because that is such a common human question, and it is so illogical at the same time. I just, you gotta play it by ear. You gotta play it by ear. Someone has plans for you. Oh, man. Cut that. Okay. Who inspires you at the moment? I just started reading Clarice Lispector, because it is on Elle Nash's Goth book club list, and she is awesome. I am like a quarter of a way through this book about a woman who finds a cockroach, and this is the exact sort of thing where I feel like people would assume I had read this before I started on my own writing ventures. It is internalized. It is constantly referring back to some form of experience outside of the perceptual. It provides the entire spiritual context for the experience, and yeah, I'm like 60 pages in and she found a cockroach. It's a lot of internality, and I am super into it. I don't know if it's going to inspire me to do further, greater, better things, but it does make me think that there's a place for what I'm doing in the universe. She is an inspiration, abso-fucking-lutely, and people should read that book and join Elle Nash's book club. What's your latest project? I just finished a novel, and I sent it away. I finished it, and then I abandoned it for a month, and then I edited it. Was it last weekend? Yeah. Yes, it was last weekend, and I sent it away to Apocalypse Party, and Ben's gonna look at it and do the edits. Hope he likes it. It is about the devil. It goes back to a period in my life that was the worst. Pretty the worst. Yeah. Going back to my teenage years at the trailer park when I was a trailer park waitress. And just leaning into the dark, and the devil is there. Yeah. You'll cut the pauses, right? I don't know what I'm going to do now. I need to start something new. I need to write you a story for Dirt in the Sky. That's already conceived of. The more I think about it, the more condensed it gets. I'm a little worried that the thoughts won't play out as robustly as I originally conceived them. That's the risk, right? When you don't start something when you're supposed to, at least for me, the rotations of thought come to be sedimented. Like, all right, to answer this question, we're going to have to talk about the experience of time according to Henri Bergson, where experiences, compress and compound over time until they eventually form concepts. And this is how we come up with all universal concepts in general, right? You experience a number of things over time. Boring example, chairs. I'm looking at one. And over time, you replace that bevy of experiences with one general concept, chair, that you apply to all chairs ongoing. And this natural process of condensation happens without you knowing it. It's just one of the transcendental forms of thought where we universalize from particulars. So if I wait too long to write something down, all the thoughts come to be compressed, and like the general idea is still there, but all of the experiences leading up to that general idea turn into like a paragraph or a sentence. And I don't know. It gets too compressed. You can't lead people through the experience in a way you were once able to, at which point the idea becomes obsolete. It just becomes part of your consciousness and not something you're going to impose on other people anymore, such that what's the point in writing it down? So I get a lot of ideas that end up that way. They just go away like that because you think about them for too long. They become something else and they've got to go. Ooh. No, I'm going to try to write that down this weekend. I got time. It's okay. It's all going to be okay. The thing about ideas is there's always a new one. I mean, there's always something that you can pull on, draw on, like an infinity of stuff out there. Not an actual infinity, a potential infinity. But, I mean, every moment or two, there's some new invasive thought that's just asking for clarification, for expansion, for analysis. I love analysis. We're going to work on that. And I've got to write an essay for Mila. Black Lipstick Magazine. Woo! That'll be fun. If money no else, no object, what would be your dream project? I don't know. I think I was corralled into conceiving of projects as things that don't take money. Writing on a laptop doesn't take money. And if I didn't have that, I would just find some paper. So if money was no object, I think I would be pretty much doing the same thing, except in a nicer place. Ottawa is actually really nice, but I also like traveling and going places. But then, I mean, you travel and go places, you think you're going to work on a project, you don't want to be inside all day. You want to go outside. I want to go outside and sit on the patio and drink several local beers. And then, I mean, if you're experiencing things, who's writing things down at the same time? You got to work that out. It's a scheduling issue. Practical problems. Is there a quote or a motto that you work by? Nah. No, not really. There are things that keep me going. Sometimes. But not a quote or a motto. Would you be friends with yourself? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I need to take a break and drink some coffee. Just a second. Yeah, no, I am a terrible friend. I don't put in the effort to keep up my relationships with humans. I don't call or answer back and it's not that I don't care. I care way too much. When someone presents me with a problem, I can't help but feel that I need to solve that problem immediately. And it's directly incongruent with my own experience, because I can be like going through the worst shit, and then someone presents me with their problem where they like can't get a paper cutter to work or some shit, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so terrible, we need to fix that immediately. And that's a fault. That is an absolute fault. So I need to protect myself from people with trivial problems, for one. But at the same time, I kind of approach friendship in a passive manner, where it seems that the friends I have made over the years are people who pursued me and then put in all the effort to like ensure that I will come out or talk to them, or they will continue to message me. Even if I don't respond the first time, like, these are very persistent people and I appreciate them. But yeah, I would not be friends with myself because I don't do that. Yeah, I can think of several people I should be talking to right now, and I'm just not. I'm just not doing it, even though I like them, and I would like to spend time with them and hear all their thoughts about all of the matters and keep up on all of their goings on, which I do find interesting. People are a potential infinite of other experience that can absolutely enrich your life, and not just in a profound way, in a very basic way. Like, we are social things, and other people are like inherently good. That's not to say they're good people, it's just like we like having them around. We take mundane activities and then we add other people into them and make them better. Everything is better with other people around. And I'm not that picky about who those people might be. And when I say I mean we as a species. We just like other people. We want them around. We want them to like us, and we want to do things together. And these are just a list of the way things we are. Nope, edit that. This is just how we are as humans, as social people. And I'm failing at that. Failing. So yeah. It wouldn't work if I tried to be friends with myself. I don't know about my epitaph, so this is going to be our last question. What do you do differently from other people? I don't know. Honest self-reflection? Honest reflection of others? Authenticity? Yeah, we'll go with authenticity rather than honesty. Honesty makes it sound virtuous, but it's not. It's just, you gotta know what's going on. Yeah, there's another human thing. We gotta know what's going on. And in order to really know what's going on, you've got to eliminate a lot of conceptual and perceptual filters that we use to engage the world in a particular way. You have to tear those down. It's like a conscious process. If you want to know what's really going on, which is probably the main thing I want, is to know what's going on. I don't know. Maybe that is a pathological way of dealing with the world. I resent its mysteries. Does that sound a little more normal? I resent how the universe presents itself to me from only one side at a time, such that I can't know what's going on outside of this room, outside of the house, in other places, in other people's minds, and I wish to eliminate that barrier and become omniscient, and that requires a bit of logic, a bit of observation, and a lot of cutting the bullshit. When I read this question, I was thinking about, I went to the bar a bunch of years ago, and I ran into this guy. He was another grad student at school, and we were just standing there chatting, and some girl came up to him and, I don't know, made small talk, whatever, and she walked away, and I said to him something like, she had high hopes from that conversation, and he stopped and looked at me, and he said, "You say things other people only think." And that stuck with me. I think I apply that in my writing as well. People have said things like it's like being in a brain, or it reveals the worst of humanity, which is pretty pessimistic. Maybe humanity isn't as bad as I make it out to be. Maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I'm the worst one of us. But yeah, there's a lot in there that's just the natural flow of thought that I had the gall to speak out loud. Which makes it easier and harder. You have to, if you're going to write like that, you have to eliminate the concept of other consciousnesses, because you can't do it and imagine that other people are listening. There's a reason that we think things and don't say them. And you have to pretend there isn't. But easier because you don't have to craft. There's no craft involved. It is all you just hit go, right? You just hit go and I start and then I'm done and then I do a light edit and it's over. And I think that's what I do differently from other people. They try and craft and experience. Well, I try to reveal what's actually going on. Does that sound like a dick move? Maybe. I don't know. Well, Ira Rat, thank you very much for having me on your podcast. I hope you have felt like a psychiatrist. I will never listen to this recording. I hate the sound of my own voice. I constantly revise whatever it was that I said and wish I'd done it just a little differently. And I got to know this about myself when I was recording lectures as a philosophy professor. That was the worst. Just editing that into some kind of thing that wasn't gross. So yeah, if I'm going to do a podcast, I will not listen to it. You can edit this, however you want. And I would never know unless someone told me, and they're not gonna come at me. And that's all right. We can finish this how I finish my work emails. Let me know if you have any further questions. Oh, shit. Audio files sent to me will only be edited for sound quality and pacing. Yeah, pacing, take the pauses out. That'll be good. We're almost at exactly 30 minutes. Psh, good enough.